Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for Marvel's Loki. What can I say? I'm a mischievous scamp. Hello, Variants, and welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and in this week's premiere episode, we see Loki escape his timeline, get captured by the Time Variance Authority, and discover a new world that changes his perception of everything that's ever mattered to him. But first, if you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but it's actually, way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so and then come right back in a snap. Now, before we all get pruned for not having our tickets, let me introduce you to our all-knowing group of timekeepers. First up, he'll judge your tardiness if you don't join in a jiffy. He's just in time, Justin. Not too bad, right? Well, I mean, you were literally just judging my tardiness for getting to this recording.
Right,
so.
And my parents said that they named me Justin because I was born on New Year's Eve and I was just in time. So it's all very fitting.
That's so cute. That's cute. Amazing. And he's clocked and loaded and ready to cause a nasty Nexus event in a nanosecond. He's the king of space himself, Kevin Hudson.
All hail, bow down to your king.
King of space, I like that. That's like cute.
What, is that because I take up so much of it?
That's not what I meant. You're taking it there. I didn't take it there. Oh my gosh. But guys, coming off of our preview episode, I am so excited just to really dig deep into this series. How about you guys?
Yeah, we can finally talk about all the spoilers because that was a hard preview episode not to
so
kind
tough.
of think of.
Especially with a show like this where there's just so many little details to unpack and unravel. That
100%.
Embargo made that tough for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so difficult.
Yeah.
So absolutely, as I know, as you might know, because we may have posted it and are just literally bragging to every single possible person we can because we're so excited that we're finally getting to get some sort of pre-release content. This will be filled with spoilers. However, we will not be touching anything from episode 2, which we've already seen as well. So just keep that in mind. But before we get into the plot and review our thoughts on what happened in this week's episode, let's start with a brief kind of overview. I'd love your high-level thoughts specifically on this episode. Justin, how about yourself?
Yeah, I think that this was probably the perfect first episode as it just really set everything up. It had everything in it. It literally picks up where we last saw Loki in Endgame, and then we would just kick off the rest of the show. So it's pretty amazing the way they've set it up. I also love that the episode itself serves as a bit of a history lesson for the character. Yes. So seemingly if someone hasn't necessarily watched all of the movies and they just somehow stumbled into this Loki show and someone was like, yeah, you should watch this. There's a lot, there's enough there, I think, that you can kind of pull from. But again, the strong connectivity that MCU fans have to Loki and his legacy, if you will, through all the movies, that goes a long way for the appreciation of this. That being said, it was outstanding. The characters that they introduced, the dynamics, we're going to get into all of it. It was superb. It was exactly what I wanted, and I am looking forward to where we're going in these 6 episodes.
Absolutely. Kevin, yourself.
We mentioned it in our preview show, just how I had such high expectations for this, and I can't believe that it not only met those, but probably exceeded them in almost every single way. And I know we'll break down specifics in terms of characters and acting and music and things like that. 2 things I thought were done so well in this episode were the callbacks. There's such a rich history to the MCU, and so to get to go back in time a little bit and see some of the more significant moments, at least in terms of how they relate to Loki, was such a fun trip. And then I think there was so much that they needed to sort of explain in this episode. And I think the ways that they did it were fun and engaging. And there were 2 or 3 different ways that they chose to sort of give us an explanation of where we are, when we are, and everything like that. That was just done so well. It wasn't just exposition dialogue. It was a spectacle.
It was very fluid. It was direct with the explanations to the things that we learn. So clear, so concise. I could follow along. It didn't veer too far into the philosophical, but it made sense, and they did it in such a clean manner that the audience was able to say, "Oh, okay, this is what's going on right now."
Well, and it's really our first look at what I think a theme of Phase 4 is going to be, and that's going to be timelines and multiverses. Yes. And I've been so nervous about how it's such a complex idea that translating it from the page to a visual medium like this was going to be very difficult for Marvel. But like you said, Justin, they made it so clear and so concise that while we're going to be learning more and more different things about this as we go through this show and then future movies, the groundwork has now been laid. We've got an established timeline, if you will, that we will then deviate from as we go along. And that was done so well.
So well.
Yeah, and I like, to your points, I just don't know how Marvel keeps doing this. And I wholeheartedly love this episode. Yeah, because it does. It reintroduces Loki. In our preview, I think one of you guys called out that it allows for them to almost reinvent Loki in a way. And I think getting the character sort of caught up to a similar mental state of the Loki that we know, I think they did it in such a great way that it didn't feel cheap, and it didn't feel rushed, even though it took place in like a couple scenes. I think that has so much to do with Tom Hiddleston's performance and just the way that he just so does such a good job of that. But anyways, let's not waste another minute, as Miss Minutes would say. Let's get right into the plot. So the episode starts with a flashback showing the events from the original Avengers movie and from Endgame, where we see Loki use the Tesseract to escape. Then, after an incredible look at the Marvel Fanfare logo in green, we see him crash land in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, where he's discovered by not only some locals, but also the TVA, who capture him, with their leader Hunter B-15, and he's brought through a portal to the processing section of the TVA, where he's stripped of his fine Asgardian leather. He has to sign his life script, and he basically has to confirm that he has a soul, and then he's given a copy of his temporal aura. What's that? Your temporal aura. What's that? In the next room, he takes a ticket and watches a brief and fun instructional cartoon on the history of the Timekeepers, variants, and Nexus events. After that, he sees the only other variant in the room get pruned, which basically means they hit him with that stick and he disappears. And then he desperately searches for his ticket, very comedically, and holds it up in the air in fear of also getting pruned. Then we cut to our new title sequence. So guys, what did you think of this opener, this opening scene for the series? And what did you think of our introduction to the TVA and Miss Minutes? Kevin, let's start with yourself. It was so fun to get that quick refresher of where the character of Loki was when we last saw him, and then sort of get plunged so quickly into this world. Within 3 minutes, he's already exploring the TVA, and it's funny. Over the weekend, I was just doing a channel surf, just watching something lazily on a Saturday, and Beetlejuice came on. So I hadn't watched it for years, so I watched Beetlejuice, and then it's amazing to have watched this, and there's such a Beetlejuice processing, when they go to the afterlife there. It was I got so many Beetlejuice vibes from the TVA that I got a real kick out of that.
Yeah. While we're talking about the processing, I thought that was really interesting. I thought that was probably just a great way to kind of summarize the importance of the TVA. They asked him to sign his life script, as you said, which I think is essentially holding him accountable for his words. They asked him if he had a soul versus a robot, and I think if he's a robot or if he's not, and I think a soul is deeply affected by time, is shaped by time and is molded by that, and I think that's one of those reasons as to why that was asked. And obviously we get to that explainer video, which just does such a great job of painting a picture of what's going on. It felt very, very familiar to something like WandaVision. The way it's explained, I was just like, okay, I understand now what's going on and how the TVA fits into it all. And it was really cute, that little explainer video.
The animation?
Yeah, the animation, the clock was awesome.
It reminded me, so like, okay, I gotta say, I'm a big fan of Miss Minutes. Like, her voice and everything about her is just so endearing and but also dark at the same time. It gives me a lot of sort of the same humor you would get out of something like Portal, if you've ever played that game.
Yes.
And the cartoon they showed of at least the part with the timekeepers, that was like, I was like, are we watching a cartoon of like a classic 80s Marvel cartoon right now? Because that was like identical to that. And it also felt like the way that they sort of did the whole thing kind of felt like it was at like an airport almost. But it also felt like they could easily recreate this experience at the Avengers campus in Disneyland. Like, if they wanted to make like this as part of the line that you wait in with Miss Minutes, it just felt so
maybe not the
so
strip you
cool.
down to your birthday suit part.
Sure,
but
maybe not that part.
That's
maybe not that
family
part.
friendly, but
right. But like, I just think maybe you go through, you get your temporal aura printed out for you. I just loved it. I adored literally the first 11 minutes of this show.
The one interaction he has when he's asked if he's secretly a robot, and he says, "What would people not know that they're a robot?" And then he hesitates to go through
because he doesn't
right.
know.
Like, what if I don't know and I am a robot? That was the biggest laugh from me from that episode. That moment there was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Speaking of laughs, I also just have to quickly jump back to the moment when he's in Mongolia and he starts to like walk towards Hunter B-15 and she smacks him in the face. Yeah. And we get to see him at 1/16th speed. Like, I could not stop like howling laughing. And this is like in the first few seconds of the episode. It's just, you see Tom Hiddleston, he's so good at acting, which we'll get to later through this episode in some of those moments. But then you also get to see him be goofy at the same time. And the face that he makes is just incredible. So funny.
The way time is used in this episode is from like a weapon standpoint is really interesting. Yeah. I loved when they introduced where he landed. It rolls on the screen very similar to like a train terminal or old school airplane terminal where like the letters are lining up. It just like
oh yeah,
and like very very similar. So again, it already insinuates time traveling right off the bat. And then the intro sequence, that black and white gritty sort of case file sort of vibe, and you see each letter sort of changing and it is reflected as almost like a different time with each letter. It was so intelligent right off the bat. They're giving you so much to tell you what this show is really going to encompass, and especially including an explainer like the TVA video. So again, this is an example of what I was saying before, where it's just such a clean way to introduce all of these very high level concepts without necessarily mystery boxing it like WandaVision did. Like they've put all their cards like right on the table, right, to show in this first episode.
For sure.
One thing that did stand out to me was something that Loki says, and he says, "This has been a very long day." And it's crazy to think that he literally did have the invasion of New York, gets arrested,
True.
escapes, and now he's into this whole new adventure in the same day. Like, he must be exhausted.
Oh, wow.
Like, get that man some sleep.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, listen, let's keep going through this plot, because I want to keep talking about this. We then cut to see Mobius and some other TVA hunters standing in a church and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Agen-Provence, France, 1549. They investigate apparently the sixth attack on their Minutemen in the last week that they know of. And then they discover a child, and Mobius sort of delicately approaches him and starts questioning him and asks him, who did this? And the kid just quietly and very creepily sort of points towards a stained glass window depicting an image of the devil.
Mephisto.
Him. Hold on. I was going to get to it. You're ruining it. The kid smiles. Mobius then recognizes the kid has some glue in his teeth. And as a result of some, gum that was given to him most likely by the attacker that they're investigating, he hands that gum over for them to kind of identify and look at later. But with the time branch nearing the red line that they have to kind of pay attention to throughout the episode, they have to leave and get back to the original timeline. So they have to disappear. So You guys threw me off my game really quickly. Don't get mad at me for saying this, but the last time we saw this much imagery of the devil, right? I'll say it. Mephisto, we thought was going to be in the MCU. So I need to ask, after this scene, is Mephisto going to be in this series?
It's hard to say, really, right? Like I won't disagree with you, Nate, that like a lot of WandaVision playfully hinted at Mephisto, but I'm wondering now, like, and not getting into like pitching an idea for where they're going to go, but I wonder if that was all that WandaVision was to do, was just to playfully point and hint with its narrative and its story and its sort of illusion. And maybe now, as we go further down this rabbit hole of phase 4, we'll start to see it actually make its appearance. So maybe it was never intended for WandaVision, and maybe it is intended to kind of leapfrog through this and maybe Doctor Strange. Who knows? But again, I wrote it down in my notes in big, bold letters, Mephisto, when I saw that stained glass, because I was like, Nate's gonna fly off the handle. Jeez! That being said, I think, though, that the iconography of the devil, showing up is obviously intentional. Like, you can't not do that and not know that you're hinting at something else. So,
right?
Who knows?
But I think you're right. Listen, my hope has been shattered after WandaVision. I think you're right. I think it's just to throw us off. I think it's to throw us off and to kind of get us chasing after the wrong tail or whatever. But anyways, I just wanted to throw that out there because I still want that train to chug. But listen, we then get to see Variant L1130, aka Loki Laufeyson, on trial in front of a TVA judge, where she asks him how he pleads, to which he arrogantly disagrees with everything that's going on. He first attempts to blame the Avengers while explaining why he thinks all of this is ridiculous. Then, after failing to use his powers, as they're disabled in the TVA, he's sentenced to be reset. Mobius requests to keep him from being reset by bringing on Loki as somewhat sort of assistant or informant. And while walking with Mobius, Loki looks out of a window and sees the vast, massive cityscapes of the TVA, saying that he thought there was no magic here, to which Mobius responds by saying, there isn't. There's just a lot of paperwork. During a brief elevator ride, Mobius introduces himself and explains that time works differently in the TVA and that Loki will catch up. So, guys, what did you think of the trial and a somewhat seemingly close relationship between the judge and Mobius? And also, I mean, we got to talk about that incredible look at the entirety of the TVA realm. Mm-hmm. Either one of you, if you want to take it.
Well, the courtroom scene, it really hints at this whole TVA feeling. Like, there's a belief system that's very apparent, and you see it, especially in the architecture. Like, it looked like a church more so than a courtroom. They had the faces that are staring down his eyes on the judgment that is being handed down on Loki. It kind of sat in the middle of being a courtroom and a bit of a church at the same time, for me at least.
And I even with the paintings on the wall, it was kind of, there was a little bit of sort of a Soviet-esque artistry to Soviet sort of war profiteering, or not profiteering, but propaganda. War propaganda sort of look to it. Just the way it was painted. And again, it just kind of shows how, like, it sort of seems like the TVA is sort of pulling from all different cultures and not just
to influence their own. Absolutely, that's exactly what I was going to get at. As I think that there's going to be a lot of like blending of what we know in our own world and timeline that we're going to see emulated through it, because we were talking about it in the preview show, like already the look, the 70s vibe, the technology and everything, it already feels timeless. It's very, very interesting how they've been able to bring everything together to create this world. What I thought was interesting, though, also in the trial, just wanted to bring this up, is that I guess Loki was aware that there were two Tony Starks, because he says, like, I could always recognize the clone of two Tony Starks. Like,
yes, sure.
So because he called out the fact that the Avengers should be on trial because they obviously went back to stop him.
Yeah, he's a smart guy.
Yeah, and I thought it was really interesting. Her response was, well, what happened with the Avengers was supposed to happen. And I'm wondering if subtly this is the justification for the Eternals. What was supposed to happen was supposed to happen, which is why the Eternals will probably explain that more in-depthly, I think. But I think it's just it's kind of interesting how it might necessarily connect to that, given that this would have come out after the Eternals, if everything had been non-COVID bumped.
Oh, really?
If you will, right? So
Oh,
we
wow.
would have gotten Eternals, and then we would have gotten Loki. So who knows if there's a similar sort of element that's going to come to play in that. So that raised my that's easy justification, right? If they say
cool.
that in the Eternals, then I would be fine with it. But it was really interesting, the whole sort of display, how he was on thing, and he's still trying to be mischievous and score a meeting
And obnoxious,
with the timekeepers, right?
obnoxious.
Yeah, absolutely.
His dumb one-liners. Like, it just shows how many dumb one-liners he's always had. But like, he's like, I'm guilty of this, and then nothing happens. It's like,
But
this is incredible.
It's like he like I think I said in the preview episode, it's like he time traveled himself back to where the character he was in 2012.
Yeah.
And he is representing
So
that
arrogant,
that
yeah.
cocky, arrogant. I need to be this kind of person, which we'll get to in another scene. But
very cool. Kevin, what did you think of Mobius and Gugu and Bathara's character in terms of like their relationship? It seemed like something was going on there.
Yeah, like there was very underlying tones of a potential romance there for sure. Like they certainly have a history together, and it's we don't know how long that they would have been working together for the agency, if it's forever, if it's but obviously again time works differently there. But they clearly have a deep relationship.
Yeah. And I'm almost wondering if they used to be equals, right? And then something happened and she got a promotion or what have you,
There
right?
we go.
there you go. That's
but,
probably it, actually.
That's probably it. The TVA, seeing the TVA out that window, it gave me a lot of vibes of Sakaar from Thor Ragnarok, right? Like, but everything was copper. Everything was covered in copper. And I think it looks so cool when Mobius, kind of is ushering him towards the window, and they just sort of have that amazing sort of camera pan out into. I felt like I was like flying out into that scene. It was awesome.
Yeah, they did. They really did a great job of making us feel the amazement that Loki had as he was looking out that window, right? Like the sense of wonderment, and even just the music swelled perfectly, and his line about the line about I thought there was no magic here. That was just a really powerful moment that they represented really well.
Yeah, I think the aesthetic is again sci-fi retro. I'm just gonna dub that as the sort of thing. It had the nuances of feeling futuristic, but also feeling very dated, and it was this kind of harmonious balance, and it kind of reminded me of Ready Player One. I don't know if you guys saw that movie, that sort of interpretation of the city, very buildings on top of buildings and sort of mentality, and a little bit of that Coruscant with flying cars kind of thing, but definitely very very
Star
much
Wars and everything.
Very Sakaar.
And I just need to really quick Mobius does mention there's a whole department for nightmares.
Yeah.
So does that mean Nightmare is going to be in the
All right.
ICU?
The next
Are we going to
next
start a
tail
new
you're
train?
chasing, there, bud?
I'm just saying. I know it sounds crazy, but Marvel loves to drop these seemingly sort of insignificant lines as sort of like precursor. Anyways. All right, so then Loki is brought to a theater where Mobius shows him a collection of Loki's greatest hits, as he puts it. They review moments of him terrorizing and murdering people, as Mobius asks him if he enjoys hurting people. Then we watch Loki as he threatens an entire airline full of passengers with a bomb, as it's revealed he was, who us on Midgard refer to as D.B. Cooper, the famous unidentified man who hijacked a Boeing 727 aircraft in the United States back in 1971. Then, after attempting to stand up, Mobius uses his time twister to snap Loki back into his chair. While seeking a deeper understanding of what makes Loki tick, Mobius continues to show Loki his failures and the eventual death of his mother. Because of a mistake that he will eventually make. Then they're interrupted by Hunter B-15, and she tries to inform Mobius that talking to Loki is a mistake, that he should be reset, and that they just lost another unit at the hands of the variant they're hunting. Mobius returns to the room to let Loki know they'll continue their session tomorrow, and he's disappeared and escaped yet again. So, what did you guys think of this look into Loki's past and future?
I mean, I found it interesting because I didn't remember him sort of causing his mother's death.
Yeah.
And in my rewatch of the MCU, Thor: Dark World is next for me. So I'm definitely going to be watching that with a new lens for sure, trying to catch that, how that all goes down.
Right.
For sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I didn't catch that in Thor: Dark World. Again, as I was saying at the top, the sort of history lesson of Loki, it's great to understand, even as someone who's already watched the whole MCU unfold with him in it, where he's come from and how far he's come from, from the time of the attack in 2012. So it's a reminder that really that Loki we know and the Loki that we're currently watching are two different people now. Are two different characters, and that's where, again, in the preview I was suggesting that they're reinventing Loki from this point, because now he's not going to live through the events that we saw him live through in the MCU. He's going to watch them and be shaped by them, right? So
sure. And I think the cool thing is this kind of continues the theme of our main characters and their awareness of their own mental well-being, just like we got with Wanda and then Bucky. Right, we kind of get yet another therapy session for this sort of time that's hosted by Mobius as kind of his therapist.
That's a really good way to look at it too. It's a very therapeutic moment for him. But it's funny though, because what he's trying to do, I thought it was kind of counterintuitive, right? Because we know that what he's trying to pull from Loki, he will inevitably learn because of the events of the MCU, but he's not at that point yet. So he's not at that point, and as the scenes unfold, we see what gets him to that point. But it has to be very specific.
For sure, but the quick back and forth, as Loki sort of, you see him sort of break further and further into starting to believe he's actually in this reality that he's in. So I just thought it was so well done. And then, seeing him escape, the fact that Mobius straight up talks about how wonderful he is at escaping. And then, he just still manages to slip by him. I just thought that was really funny. And then when he says mischievous scamp, I was just like, that's Owen Wilson to a T. I'm like, he might as well have just said, wow. He was perfect. And I loved it. I loved it so much. Awesome. After escaping the theater, Loki time twists his way. It sounds like a new dance, right, from the 70s. Do the time twist. Loki time twists his way to an office where he encounters Casey, the desk attendant, that was handed the Tesseract earlier in the episode. He threatens to gut Casey like a fish, and after asking what a fish was, Casey complies and opens his desk drawer to hand the Tesseract over to Loki. Then Loki notices in that same drawer a handful of Infinity Stones, as Casey quips that some of the other employees use them as paperweights. Loki, taken aback by this, of course, stands up and slowly walks into the middle of the room where he asks Casey, "Is this the greatest power in the universe?" Then, suddenly, Hunter B-15 barges through the elevator doors and attempts to prune Loki, but misses as he time twists back into the theater. So before we continue, I need to know, what did you think of Loki seeing the Infinity Stones just sitting in a desk and used as paperweights? And my question is, how can the most powerful items in the known universe be so trivial in the TVA? Justin.
Well, I think that's exactly it. I think for us as audience members, this is a signifier for us to say that this is a whole different place where the stones that took away half of life and brought them back doesn't matter. Magic doesn't matter. And you can even see in the way it's represented, they don't glow fully. They're like a dark glow. Right. They're just so there's
sort of deactivated.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's deactivated. It can't work. So right off the bat, for an MCU fan to watch this and see that the most significant thing in the last 23 movies is no longer significant here, that's a big message. That's a big sign to say that these things don't actually matter in this TVA. So it's huge. It's really big, and I didn't quite clue in right off the bat. I was like, why is he so taken back by that? And then when he said, is this the greatest power, that was the signifier for me. I'm like, oh right, because in his timeline the Infinity Stones are the greatest power. So it turned in my mind as soon as I realized, okay, we're in a whole new playground now.
I couldn't breathe when it happened. I literally gasped. Like I almost. Anyways, Kevin, you got to tell me, how did you react?
I was that I found to be the most puzzling part of this episode, I think. Justin, I think you did a really good job there sort of breaking down what that moment means, and I sort of understand it a bit better now because it was very startling and confusing at the time. But quick shout out to the actor that plays Casey.
Eugene Cordero.
I always have fun when he's always playing very, very small roles, but he has a great presence, and he was terrific in this scene. I really hope we see his character again.
Please.
I think we will.
Please.
When Hunter B-15, swipes at Loki, you almost pruned me, right?
Yeah, and then she's running away, and he's like, "I don't forgive you," or something. He's so genuine as a sort of a dumb side character, and
the sort of oddball. I would say he's more oddball than he is dumb, but like I think he's more oddball than anything else.
Him,
yeah, he's great.
And then I have to say though, like the Loki seeing the Infinity Stones, this was my favorite moment in the episode actually. Like seeing his mind, like you could practically see his mind cracking as everything he's ever known is brought into question, right? And I just think it's another incredible moment in terms of performance with Tom Hiddleston and the music. Again, shout out to we shouted out the music in our preview episode, but the music here gave me vibes of Westworld, right? Where it's got the soft piano coming in, and I know there's a ton of sort of existential, mind-blowing character moments in that show, so I really enjoyed it. And Justin, to your point with seeing the Stones there, yeah, it's been 23 movies. And now they're paperweights. Like that's just
exactly.
My mind was melted, and this was.
It was to
fantastic.
make them feel insignificant after 23 movies of making them feel like the only thing. So going back to what I was saying in the previous scene of how the events of what are about to happen are going to shape him differently, this is the beginning of that. To realize that the thing that he wanted and what the importance it was in the galaxy, the timeline that he's from, to know that they're insignificant, that is such a defeat. And to your point, Nate, you see that happen to him right in that moment,
in his face.
Yeah, so well done.
So well
and the
done.
music,
so good.
The way the music kind of transitions to this sort of like very epiphany moment, like you described it, like it accentuated that epiphany moment for Loki to just kind of realize, like, what is this place? Right? Like, what is this place?
That the universe is actually bigger than him.
Or the Infinity Stones. Like, that's my thing.
Sure.
Like, it wasn't about him understanding himself. It was about the fact that he understood those objects as being definitive in a galaxy that he is from, and they're nothing there. So it was very telling and a very interesting thing for them to do. Again, for Marvel to have such weight on it for 23 movies. Maybe not even 23, from Avengers all the way through to Endgame, and they're insignificant now. So I think that was smart, actually.
Very cool. All right, so then let's get back into it. Back in the theater, Loki stops and he takes a breath before reviewing even more of his future, where he sees his mother's lifeless body, followed by the death of his father, his reconciliation with his brother, and his own death at who we know as Thanos, the hands of Thanos. So once again, he's then interrupted by Hunter B-15, and after a brief, somewhat humorous or comical confrontation, he manages to slap that collar on her and time twists her right out of the room. Then, while Loki is contemplating his purpose, Mobius walks in and provides him with a new opportunity. He informs Loki that a fugitive variant has been killing the TVA's Minutemen. And when Loki asks why they need his help, Mobius informs him that the variant they're hunting is Loki. Then we cut to see another group of Minutemen portal through to Salina, Oklahoma in 1858 to investigate yet another Nexus event caused by the fugitive. Once they arrive, they determine the investigation isn't worth their time, but just before they can leave, they see a figure in the distance who drops a lantern, which lights up the field and burns them all alive. The camera closes in on a closed figure, and the episode ends. Whew. Okay, so again, I think the main thing that I kind of want to focus on out of all of that, because it was a bit long, we got to see Loki experience and catch up to what we know of his timeline. But what did you guys think of seeing him sort of seeing the most important moments of his life centered around his family. Kevin, we'll start with you.
It's just another example of how smart they did things in this episode. And so I just thought it was such a great way for him to get caught up to where we are.
Exactly.
So while he's the Loki from 2012, he's almost been brought back down to the kind of sensibilities that he had leading up to his death, right? I think that was probably an incredibly humbling moment to watch his own death, right? I think that really must have humbled him. And this is where Tom's acting was the best in the episode, in my opinion. Like, you felt his pain and his fears so well. It was such a powerful scene.
The look he has, the moment Thanos comes on the screen, and the look of sheer dread in his eyes as to what he's witnessing, it's so freaking good. Like, I can still see it in my head.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. I think Kevin's right. For Loki, 2012 Loki, to get caught up to where we see him die in Infinity War, for him to watch that and kind of get a sort of fast track through that process, it's telling us what's going to shape him and what he knows of his future. That being said, it's a good call out, Nate, to say that the moments that he watched were with his family. And I think at the point in 2012, in the attack on New York, he was very broken from his family. He was very distant from his family. So I think there was some great reconciliation and some sort of humbleness to him realize that he repaired those relationships with his family and actually probably had a better life than where he currently is. Like, it gave him that window to know that there's more.
And I think it actually sort of reveals to us as the audience, like, what's actually important to him. Because you could imagine, right? Like, him seeing the death of his mother obviously is what sparked this. But, like, I don't know, arrogant Loki, like, I would expect him to be, like, trying to tune into all his, like, glorious victories that he's ever had in his time, which aren't very many. But, like, the fact that he didn't. He tuned into those exact moments just shows that, yeah, family's actually important to this guy, no matter how arrogant we might think he is. And you know what? Watching him watch that and react, I got goosebumps. And it made me want to watch all the other Thor movies again. So, Kevin, I know you're already going through it, so I'm kind of jealous, and now I need to maybe start my rewatch, because at least of the Thor movies, which is crazy because I never thought I'd ever want to watch Thor: The Dark World again. But no, I'm very excited to go in with a fresh new perspective.
Well, and I mentioned it earlier about how this guy's having just the longest day of all time.
Holy crap.
And so now to sort of bookend this incredibly exhausting long day, he had 7 years worth of pain and anguish combined into like 30 seconds for him. Like that, what a rough time he must just be having as a character.
I can't remember the line that he says. I should have written it down. But when Mobius comes in and confronts Loki, and he's just watched his own death, and he's sitting there kind of defeated. He asks the question, what is this place? And he realizes that the magic of the Tesseract will not work. He summarizes himself, and it was a repeat line that was from earlier in the episode, basically to call out the fact that, his tough exterior is an illusion brought on by his own weakness. And I thought that was that's what Mobius was hoping to get. And through this, advancement in learning his future, he was able to get to that and understand. And we kind of we're left here with a Loki that is a little defeated and outside of his element. He doesn't know what is really going on.
Listen, we got to wrap up this watch club. We're getting near the end here, but I just love how we're already getting so deep into the character of Loki. It's literally been one episode. Like, it might have been a long day for him, but like we've gotten so much out of it.
This is effectively a reset. Like while this was a history lesson for him and us revisiting, at the end of this episode, it is a reset on Loki, right? Like he's the way we see him. So it's going to be exciting.
I'm stoked, guys. Let's get to kind of our final thoughts and review score for this first episode of the series, which we're going to be ranking on a scale of 1 to 5 paperweights / Infinity Stones. Kevin, we'll start with you.
I hate to repeat myself. It's like somebody's using a time turner on me, and I'm just going back and saying the same thing. But for something that I've been looking forward to all year. Justin, you said it was probably right near the top of things you were looking forward to seeing in 2021. And for it to live up to the hype and the expectations and just have me so excited to see where everything's going to go. And obviously Loki is a standout character from the MCU. And so it's amazing to see him sort of get this chance to shine on his own. It probably wouldn't have worked as a movie. And so again, this TV platform that they've created for themselves just gives this wonderful opportunity to explore some of these characters who maybe wouldn't warrant a movie of their own, but still deserve attention and an exploration that goes deeper than what we've gotten already. And so to see Tom Hiddleston jump right back in, he hasn't missed a beat. This character is so connected to him. And the relationship that he already formed with Owen Wilson through one episode, I'm so excited to see where that's going to go with these two, as they go on their buddy cop adventure to stop a variant of Loki himself. I mean, that's what a way to end an episode and get you really sort of excited to see where it all goes. So, I can't give it a perfect score yet just because that doesn't leave me anywhere to go for future episodes, but I'm pretty darn close. I'm going to give this one a 4.9 out of 5 paperweights. 4.9 out of 5 paperweights / Infinity Stones. It was my favorite episode of the Disney Plus regime. The show is just amazing. I'm so excited to see where it's going to go.
Regime.
Very cool.
I love Regime. That's a great
regime.
Regime.
Okay, fine. The Disney Plus era.
There you go.
There you go. That's good.
Justin.
I'm with Kevin. It's like I feel like because we've done the preview, we've done social media reactions. It's like I'm basically constantly repeating the same stuff. And this episode knocks it out of the park with really setting up everything it needs to really kind of effectively reset Loki while also reminding us where his character has come from. Introduce some really new elements that are. As Kevin, you were saying in the preview show, and you might have mentioned down here, is that they're going to have big effects to the MCU in this phase 4 and really establishing that. Again, I can't say enough about the look and the tone, the 70s vibe, the technology, everything about it was just so well represented. Huge shout out though to the writer Michael Waldron and the director Kate Herron for really kind of knowing what the first episode needed to do and representing that really, really, really well. And just, again, knocking it out of the park and mixing so many things into one pot just to create this. And for that, I am going to give this a 5 paperweight / Infinity Stones out of 5. It was top notch. It was everything I wanted it to be.
Okay. I am going to use a time twister and just repeat all of that stuff. Just cut in what you guys said and then just repeat it again. No, what a fantastic way to start this story. There's a line in the show where Mobius in this episode says to Loki, "Don't worry, you'll catch up." And that's exactly what this episode was and did for the character. And there's a lot of exposition, but like many of the Marvel projects that have come before, this didn't feel overbearing or heavy-handed. It was the right amount of exposition, and honestly, the show was so excellent, or this episode was so excellently paced, getting right into the TVA within like 3 minutes, as we called out. Tom Hiddleston is perfect as Loki. I can't say more than that. It serves as a great way to, kind of get back to that character, but also introduce Mobius and the TVA in a way that was magical, but also intriguing and believable, if you will, like at the same time. And the stones for these writers, the stones on these writers, no pun intended, to challenge the mythology of everything we understood of the MCU so far and flip it on its head is fantastic. Like that takes a lot of guts to kind of say like, these things that are so important that we've been following for 23 movies don't matter. It's so cool. I really enjoyed this first episode, and after seeing it 3 times already, I'm going to give it 5 out of 5 paperweight / Infinity Stone. I loved it. I could, maybe it's just because I'm overhyped and it's like this whole experience of getting to do this. Listen, I'm telling you
bias,
right now.
No bias. I think I would have been.
It's incredible.
If I'd watched it on the day that it came out, I would have been losing my mind as well. Just because like everything about this is just. Like, I think one of you guys said it, like, how does Marvel do this? You know, they hire the right people that are going to take it in the direction. And to your point, Nate, have the balls to take what's already been done and challenge it and flip it and say this. Because I can imagine if I was Kevin Feige and I'm reading this and I get to the part where the Infinity Stones don't matter, I'd be like, oh, yeah, let's do this. Right? Like, this is a good
so
reset,
good.
Right?
Hold my beer again,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, and not to toot our own horn one more time, but I'm so glad we got to watch the second episode, because like they left that first episode, the episode ends on such a cliffhanger that the thought of having to wait, a whole week to find out where it goes next would be agony. So good for us.
Yeah, good for exactly. And again, I said this during our preview, but like this is probably for our listeners. This is probably the one time that we'll ever get in our lives to get to do this as professionals. So we're going to be a little unprofessional and brag about it to our friends and family. But listen. Usually on Watch Club, we like to kind of end by giving our thoughts on what we might see next in the series. But, as Kevin, as you pointed out, we were fortunate enough to be given the ability to watch 2 episodes early. Thank you, Disney. We are going to hold off for our predictions until next week's episode, and I can't wait to dive deep into all of it with all of you. But I can reveal one thing. And that's the name of our prediction segment for this Watch Club series. So for our previous Watch Clubs, we've had What's the Vision? Or we've had What the Falcon is Gonna Happen? And so for this one, we're going with, can I get your low-key perspective on what's next? Does that work?
Yeah,
it's a little long. It's a little long,
No,
but
I
think it works. And it's, it's even low-key perspective. And I think even Mobius says at some point, like, I need your low-key perspective. So very cool. Well, that is it. We hope you enjoyed this week's time-twisted episode of Watch Club. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts on this episode or your predictions for the series, well, you don't have to start a multiversal war between countless unique timelines and then restore it into a single timeline known as the Sacred Timeline. Instead, Justin, can you let our listeners know where and when they can write into the show?
Well, when is whenever. It could be now, could be tomorrow, could be next week.
Could be
you decide
a year
when.
ago.
But where is wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com.
All right. And also, if you don't know, we have more than just Watch Club. We also have our regular episodes of the Geekcentric podcast, kind of coming out on a regular basis. So make sure you subscribe. You can listen to us talk about all sorts of different things like the news or other movie reviews or, sometimes just what we're watching. So definitely go give that a listen. And please give it a nice 5-star rating. Only the best for us, demigods. Anyways, Justin, Kevin, thank you so much for joining me for today's Watch Club. And as we say, for all time,
always.